Our next speaker, Vice Admiral Dave Buss. If you were fortunate enough to attend this morning's members meeting and staff meeting, we heard the Air Boss speak for almost an hour, which was awesome, giving us insight. He has a great career. He was Academy, Intruder, Bombardier Navigator. Previously commanded VA 34. Anybody here from 34? Strike Group 12. The U.S. Second Fleet, known as Task Force 20. USS Sacramento. USS John C. Stennis. And has served multinational staff in Baghdad. Dave is a personal friend. I met him when he was a lowly commander at AirPac. I mentioned this at this morning's meeting when he took over as the Air Boss. Ran into him at Tailhook meeting, and the first thing he said is, how can I support the organization? What can I do? I'm here. And of course, that was 2 years ago, and he said, I'll be at this meeting. I thought, you don't know what's going to happen in 2 years. But he made it. I don't want to know what he had to cancel to be here, but please join me in welcoming David Buss, Vice Admiral and the Air Force.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. What a pleasure to be here. And the two previous speakers haven't said it, but I will. Is this intruder weather or what? I feel right at home. And for the old blasters in the crowd, blaster one name tag right here. I'm also, there's a reason why I'm a 3-star admiral. I recognize I'm the last thing standing between you and happy hour. So I will be very, very short. Really a humbling and distinct honor for me to be before you today and among the great men and women who have been the amazing legacy of the A6 Intruder community. Remarkable pilots and bombardier navigators, our maintainers, our troops who got us to the target and back, those who flew this incredible jet to the absolute limits of its capability, and in some cases beyond. Some in this community gave what Abraham Lincoln aptly called the last full measure of devotion. And it's those brave souls, most of all, that we honor and remember this weekend as we celebrate and rekindle old squadron friendships and retell ready room tales, not all of them true. As Larry mentioned in his introduction, my current assignment is as Commander Naval Air Forces, the Navy's Air Boss. I also happen to be, I believe, the last straight-stick intruder guy left on active duty, and by that I mean all the way through squadron command. And I've got one message for you today, and it's really quite simple, but I think it's a theme that has resonated throughout the weekend. And I hope this message does stick with you, because it proves to me that no matter what portion of the remarkable A6 era you come from, the very beginning or the very end, we have one thing in common: the people. It's all about the people, isn't it? It always has been. The people are the legacy of this community. And it's lived on long after we flew the last A6 to the Boneyard in 1997. And I'll talk more about the people in just a second. But let me talk, if I could, about how I got my start in A6s. In early January 1979, the VA-34 Blue Blasters, a squadron that I would go on to command some 17 years later, flew an airplane into the ramp here at NAS Pensacola. And they offered a ride with a couple of aspiring bombardier navigators, and those in training. And they said, Ensign Buss, what do you think about taking a ride in the mighty Intruder? I said, yeah, I'm up for that. So I jumped in that blaster jet in the right seat. I settled in, got strapped in. The first thing I noticed was a seat cushion that was soft and actually blew cool air at you. What a concept. Flew a low level around Mobile Bay, came back, and I said, this is what I want to do. This is the community I want to be a part of. A year later, almost to the day, I completed the FRS on the East Coast with Oceana. I checked into VA 65, the Fighting Tigers, and I remember sitting in the back of Ready Room 6 on board Dwight D. Eisenhower as we were doing our workups, getting ready for my first deployment. Not here this evening, but retired Vice Admiral Herb Brown was the skipper, and young, impressionable Butts listened as Herb Brown talked about why aircraft carriers exist, to influence events in this unsettled world. And the reason an aircraft carrier exists is to project power. And we have a lot of ways of doing that in the United States Navy, but the way that matters the most is the A6 Intruder. And it validated what I had found a year before when VA 34 brought that jet down here. I was in the right place. Fast forward a few years, I was in my department head tour in VA 36, and we were gearing up for combat operations during the first Gulf War. Our first night strike, we were in the corral. The yellow shirts broke us down. We had a load of 10 Mark 83s, headed to a target just outside Basra at the Rock. We began to taxi, the gyro started to spin, and the INS dumped. We stopped our taxi. The air boss said, 531, what's the problem? And before the pilot could even key the ICS and talk to me, I said, 531's up and up, boss. And off we went. All the way through combat operations, those that all of us participated in, the Intruder carried the heaviest load, literally and figuratively. And finally, as the last A6 skipper of the Blue Blasters, the second to last A6 squadron on the East Coast, where the average age of my 14 jets was 2.5 years older than the average age of the pilots who were flying it. We went on a combat deployment to the Adriatic in support of operations in Bosnia. We flew in those airplanes 650 consecutive sorties. Didn't miss a one. We sprinted to the finish line in combat operations in the Balkans and Iraq, and the people made that happen. So what about the people? What happened to the people? Well, as the Navy's air boss, I've got a unique perch, and I've had the opportunity as a guy who's now 18 years removed from squadron command, 17 years removed from the decommissioning of the last A6 squadron, to witness with great pride the cross-pollinization of A6 personnel throughout the rest of our Naval Aviation Force. And that talent has meant the world to us. And I can trace our community's DNA, that which you trained us to do, to every community in naval aviation. A rising tide lifts all boats, and that's exactly what's happened in naval aviation as a result of the mighty A6 community and our cross-pollinization throughout the rest of the fleet. The troops. I had a maintenance master chief when I was in command of the A-34, a remarkable man, God rest his soul, just passed away, who went on to be an air wing maintenance master chief ×2 and did great things for the rest of the attack air community. I had a second-class petty officer who's still serving in the United States Navy. He's a Warrant Officer 5. We have about 20 of those in the Navy today. And his rising tide has lifted an awful lot of boats. What about the pilots and bombardier navigators? Well, within the Intruder community, we knew how to plan. Planning wasn't just a thing, it was the main thing. We took that to the rest of naval aviation. We knew how a crew was supposed to get the mission done in A6s. We knew what a glance, a look, a slap upside the head with a kneeboard, nonverbal communication meant in the cockpit. We knew what parity and backing each other up really meant. We understood the importance of getting the job done right the first time. We knew what fuse bombs, on target, first pass, no excuses, meant, and we took that to the rest of naval aviation. We knew the importance of the squadron duty officer picking the right ready room movie and the consequences of screwing that up. We took that to the rest of naval aviation. This is what we shared with the rest of our community in TAC Air. And I can tell you, folks, that from my perch as the Air Boss, this distribution of community DNA has been a good thing. A very, very good thing. But there's one attribute that stands alone, at least for me, that is uniquely ours in the Intruder community and remains so today. And it's been on display this weekend here in Pensacola. And that is the spirit and the camaraderie that made the A6 Ready Room so special. That spirit and camaraderie that you can find in the back bar at Whidbey Island, or Oceana, or Cherry Point, or El Toro, or Atsugi, or all the places we get it out to. That spirit and camaraderie that made A6 Squadron parties with our lovely ladies a not-to-be-missed event. Nope, that trait is uniquely ours, and it always will be. It's the spirit of attack. You know, there's a plaque that hangs just outside my office at my headquarters at AirPac in San Diego, and this plaque reminds me each and every day of who we are in naval aviation, our ethos, if you will. And it reminds all who walk through the door into my office of who we are in naval aviation. And I won't quote the entire plaque for you, but it says in part, we are naval aviation. Our core competency is the projection of combat power from a flight deck or a forward base. We influence events in this unsettled world by engaging forward with our presence and our power. Our service puts us in harm's way, often far from our families and often for long periods of time. What we do is hard, and it's dangerous, but it's bigger than each one of us, so we do it as a team. Hardships are shared, and what drives us is a richness of life and a richness of experience that can be found nowhere else. We serve our country, we excel in the air, and we make a difference. Ladies and gentlemen, we did all of those things in the A6 community, but most importantly, we did, in fact, make a difference. Intruders forever. Thank you very much.